Hi everyone, you can hear me okay? Yeah? Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for introducing me in MediaTech Hub. So my name's Hermione Flynn and I'm the CEO at Mimic Productions. We're a company that specializes in creating highly realistic 3D humans. The first question I normally get when I say to someone that this is what we do is, what are 3D humans and why does the world need them? So I'm going to address that a little bit later on, but I first wanted to give you a bit of an introduction as to how our company started and where we've come so far. So we launched the company, my husband and I. His name is David Bennett, 6 years ago here in Berlin. David had the incredible opportunity to have some really unique experiences in the Hollywood film industry. He actually was the facial motion capture manager for major blockbuster hits such as Avatar, Tintin, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Beowulf, Monster House, and Polar Express. He actually played a key role in the development of the original facial motion capture technology during Polar Express, which is one of the longest feature films that attempted to feature highly realistic 3D humans. So we founded the company a little bit by accident in the sense that we arrived here in Berlin and we started a website for David as a consultant. And just a few weeks later, we had an inquiry to do all the facial animation for the Call of Duty game. A few weeks after that, we were contacted by a team working for Kanye West wanting the animation for the Black Skinhead music video. And so we suddenly found we had a company on our hands. And so since then, we've had some awesome successes working and creating digital humans and character content for clients such as Marvel, McGuff, Saatchi&Saatchi, League of Legends. So it's been a real ride over the past 6 years. Some of our digital doubles that we have created we've created several celebrity digital doubles. This includes Tony Gunn and Robin Schulz, who were just featured recently in a music video which was released just a few weeks ago. We've also created scans and digital doubles of Roger Federer, famous tennis player, and a ton of other tennis players. This was for a game. We also created Cristiano Ronaldo, scanned and created Cristiano Ronaldo and a ton of other famous football players. That was for a Nike campaign, advertising campaign. We had the opportunity to scan and recreate Marina Abramovic, a very famous performance artist, for her VR work Rising. We've just recently scanned and recreated digital doubles of the 1975 Brit boy band who just won the Brit Awards, so that'll be featured in a music video shortly. And then we've also scanned and recreated Sophia, which is the very famous robot from Hanson Robotics. So you can see this kind of overarch of the different types of artists, types of talent who do require digital human recreation. So I wanted to just take the opportunity to play our demo reel just to give you a taster of everything in motion. Instead of obtaining a mirror, obtain a person. Look into them. Thanks. There's actually a ton more new music videos, new content that's going to be coming out really soon, especially in early 2020. We have a really exciting project where we actually resurrected a very famous woman who I can't say a little bit too much more about, but please keep checking in because we've got some really cool projects coming up soon. So I think something that's quite special and different about Mimic is we're one of the few independent companies worldwide that offer the full character creation pipeline under one roof. So it is a rather complex pipeline, and there are many companies that specialize in the different areas of the pipeline, but actually very few do everything under one roof. And this is actually really important because all these steps do inform one another, and also to recreate something organic and believable, it is important that these steps all work together. So just to quickly run through that's scanning, modeling, texturing, rigging, motion capture, animation, and integration into the render engine. So just to talk through these a bit quickly, we have a photogrammetry scanner system, which is based here in Berlin. We can adjust this system to do full body scanning and then bring it in a little bit closer to do facial scanning. Of course, the face is extremely important in terms of creating realism, so we want to have that flexibility. We've also optimized this system to be able to travel with it because obviously the people that do require scanning are celebrities who often have limited schedules, so to have that kind of flexibility is really important for us. You can see an image here of Robin Schulz being scanned here in our studio. The next step is modeling and texturing. That's the process in which we take the raw scan data and we clean it up and we refine it. So that's extracting pore level detail, creating a series of texture maps which can create sort of the illusion of sweat on the skin and these types of details. So that's the second major step. The next step is rigging, and on a more simple level, that's literally the process where we build the skeleton inside the body to enable it to move. In regards to the face, that's a lot more complex. You saw a taster of our blend shape facial rigging in our demo just earlier, but to give a bit of an explanation on that, blend shape facial rigging is what we specialize in, and that's the process in which you create many micro expressions which can be used altogether to simulate the very detailed sort of muscle movement on the face, which is not easy to simulate. Just to give you a little bit of context, sort of a simple blend shape rig may have 50 blend shapes. A more complex one can go up to 300 to 500 blend shapes. That might be for the use in, say, a movie. But Jake Avatar from Avatar the movie, for example, had 1,200 blend shapes. So it gives you an idea as to how dynamic it can be. And it also opens up opportunities to say, industries that maybe have a smaller budget or their character is not talking, for example, in which case they can go for a less dynamic rig. The next step is motion capture. We have an OptiTrack motion capture system. So that's the process in which we track the data from a performer and extract that data into digital space and can reapply it to the character. We also have a facial motion capture system that we use in-house, and that's also for the tracking of facial animation, which again is much more complex, slightly different process than the body capture here. The next step in the pipeline is animation, and that's literally the process where the data that we get from the motion capture isn't always perfect, isn't always super clean, so that's the process where we go in and we clean it up and make it really perfect and really try and honor what the performance was. So this is usually necessary if we're doing very high quality work for, say, movies or games, game trailers, etc. The final step is render integration, which actually has become really important and has changed slightly over the past couple years. So the one solution is using a real-time engine, a game engine such as Unreal or Unity, and this approach has been slightly different in the past few years because those engines are now producing content which is realistic enough for us to work in real time. And actually, the music video that we created for Robin Schulz was created in real time. And this is really important because it means that we have the capacity to create the work and play it back to ourselves immediately. Whereas in, say, rendering for film, sometimes a single frame can take up to 3 to 6 hours to render. So this is the quality level that the game engines are now reaching is changing and opening up a lot of new opportunities in terms of production. So that's also something we specialize in. So that brings me to discuss the kind of the industries and the use cases that we've started to see with the creation of digital humans. So when we first started the company, of course, we thought games and films. But since then, we've seen a ton of new emerging industries open up. As you can see, they're all listed here. You know, we've got artificial intelligence, chatbots, AR and VR industries are booming. We're asking to do things such as medical simulations, you know, for training of doctors. We're doing things such as industrial simulations to optimize factory processes. There's beauty and fashion and the different industries that's opening up. So it's kind of fascinating because we are doing this very specialist skill, but it actually can be used by so many different industries. So I'm just going to talk about some of those in a little bit more detail. For example, you're probably all familiar with little Michaela. So she's a 3D social media influencer who now has over 1 million followers. And since, I think, you know, she had her major boom, I think was, you know, around a year ago that she really came into the general public conscience. And since then, we've been inundated with requests to make 3D social media influencers. And why this has such potential is obviously social media has become the biggest platform, say, for advertising or engaging in an audience. So if you're a company, it's obviously impossible for you to, say, hire a real life influencer because you can't be in control of someone's life. But in regards to having a 3D influencer, you can build them so that they visually look exactly the way you want them to look. They have the backstory that you want them to have. You can have them be in control of every single thing they say and do. And so I think that this has obviously sparked a lot of interest from a lot of big companies. And so I think we can expect to see a lot more of these social media influencers in the future. Another industry that we're also getting inundated with is almost, if you imagine artificial intelligence is the brain of the computer, we're now being asked to build the face of the computer. So this is an emerging, but this is a very challenging industry because we're dealing with challenges such as how can a face emote and do speech simulation in real time in an infinite number of ways. So we're always faced with challenges about how to deal with, say, a library of expressions and how those expressions can all work together and simulate at the same time, including emotion, which is not easy. So this is something that we're constantly working with, and we're actually part of a big research project called MOSM, where we are addressing this and creating a huge library of both body and facial motions that can simulate and run together. So that's just another industry that has started to emerge. Then, as I said, we've just released this Robin Schulz music video. However, I want to actually expand that out and say celebrities in general. It is of my opinion that if you are someone who is relying on your physical appearance as your main source of business or income, that you should, without a doubt, being scanned and be recreated in 3D. If I could pitch an idea such as, imagine if Kate Moss now had scanned her 18-year-old self when she was in her heyday of modeling, she could, in theory, still be modeling with her 18-year-old digital double. So I think this is something that all celebrities should be doing, and athletes, recording their physicality, making sure that they have this really realistic record of how they were. So I would suggest probably scanning yourself every 1 or 2 years. And then we, of course, have fashion and beauty. And as these guys introduced before, I do come from that background. And so I've been there in the process of sitting in a photo shoot where we have a model and we're changing her outfit and we're trying to change the background, we're trying to change the lighting, da-da-da-da-da. And that can take, you know, a full intensive day, if not longer, to create sort of 6 beautiful campaign pictures. However, in 3D, I'm also going through the process of sitting down and reproducing fashion content, you know, in the game engine with an artist, and we're able to change the pose of the model in the click of a mouse, change the color of her hair in the click of a mouse, change the color of the clothing, change the style of the clothing. We can change the color of the background. We can put her in the mountains. We can put her on the beach. We can use hundreds and hundreds of lights if we want to. There's no physical limit at all. And I think that this completely opens up this new creative approach to content creation. It is because of this flexibility that I see that actually it's in our foreseeable future that all of the visual content that we'll start to see, advertisements on bus stops, et cetera, will be more and more likely to be 3D humans in the future. I can't see why not with this ease of creation. That also, that's again just a starter if we also begin to think about how it could impact things like online sales. And say a company such as Zalando, who needs to photograph thousands and thousands of product, that they could sit there and change the model, change the pose like this, put the white t-shirt on with the varying necklines in click, 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 done. You know, so I think that a lot of people, just sort of going back to my initial question, people, when I say we make digital humans, most of the time they're just like, but why, you know? And I think when you start to really open your mind up to what the potentials are, we've actually got to teach ourselves to unlearn the physical restrictions of normal content creation or image creation. So that brings me to my personal experience of actually having an avatar that we have made in my physical likeness. We haven't created her hair yet, but I actually really love her bald, so we're sticking with this. I feel like it's quite iconic, and we've given her hairstyles, but I haven't been such a fan of them, and maybe this is part of the process of me being able to sort of live vicariously through her, that she can be bald and I don't have to. And so her name is M. We created M firstly as an opportunity to showcase our technology, but also as I mentioned before, I trained in performance art earlier, and I always had this problem where I never actually performed in my own works, and I wanted the capacity to be able to direct from afar. Now I have the opportunity to work with my own 3D digital double, and I can direct her as I see fit. And not only that, her capabilities are so much more beyond what I could ever do. M, if I wanted to motion capture someone dancing ballet, she could dance ballet. If I wanted to capture someone speaking Japanese, which I cannot speak, she can speak Japanese. She can walk through walls, she can fly, she can change the color of her skin. It's anything. And so my personal experience with her has been so incredibly liberating, and I never realized this. Suddenly I'm able to perform through her in ways that I never would have done if it had actually been my own physical body. And so that having such a positive experience of that, it made me wonder how this liberation could actually impact all of us socially. You know, we're going through times at the moment where there's a lot of movement towards inclusivity, and I'm very interested in this idea that actually maybe we could become more inclusive of the digital human and the quirks that they have, that we can learn to accept that, you know, sometimes M has these qualities about her that are not my own, but they're not quite human either. But perhaps that's something that we can learn to embrace. So this is the journey that I'm going on with M and her existence. And I really feel like when I'm 70 years old, I'm still going to be performing with M. So she's a lifelong project for me now. So I'd encourage anyone to have their own digital avatar. And this led me to write an article for Dazed Beauty, which is a platform that was recently launched by Dazed Digital, where I wanted to kind of spark in people's minds what this could be like. So I'll just read this off. Imagine, a 75-year-old woman sits in her living room in London. She holds the phone directly in front of her face. What looks back at her is a beautiful, young, digital avatar. However, she does not look digital at all. You can see the detail of her pores and the illusion of sweat on her skin. You can see the simulated hair fall in front of her forehead and the light glint in her eye. When the elderly woman looks left, the avatar looks left. When the elderly woman looks right, her avatar looks right. When she smiles, the avatar smiles, revealing small dimples in her cheeks and a slight gap between her two front teeth. The avatar is sitting on the beach and the sun is shining through her stray hairs and the cartilage in her left ear glows a little. When the elderly woman speaks, the avatar speaks and an audio simulation reveals a soft, youthful voice with a slight Spanish accent. The elderly woman records a video and uploads it directly to her online profile. So that just gives you a little bit of a taster as to perhaps what we could be facing in the future with our own 3D avatars. And that also opens up the question of what these 3D avatars could be or could look like. So I think on one circumstance, who's not going to want to have an avatar that's beautiful and fit and young? But on the other hand, I think we also have potential for a ton of other different sort of human visual expressions. Maybe some subcultures start to develop where the avatars have 5 arms and purple skin. So I'm very intrigued as to how us living through this medium could completely change the way humans are visualized entirely. So I guess that brings me to the conclusion of our speech. So again, I'd just like to welcome everyone to the era of the digital human.
Hermione, thank you for that introduction, and please come into our middle so that we can get into a little chat about what you've just shown.
The golden middle.
And to the audience, please, as always, feel free to ask questions.
Alina is there.
Alina is there with the microphone, so either signal to us or to Alina over there, and we'll make sure that your question is heard.
Is there already a question? Otherwise, we have a lot here. Nobody dares. They're all like
an avatar of myself with 5 arms. Some of these things that you just showed us sound a little creepy, and sometimes they look a little creepy as well. What is the perception of most people that you show this or introduce this to, or what happens to human beings that you scanned and then basically cloned as a 3D individual, and they see themselves at first? Are they afraid of themselves, or what does it do to the human being in all of us?
Well, I think that's, again, sort of tapping on what I said before, is that I think it's the process of us learning actually how to accept the qualities of a digital human. So there's a lot of social movements at the moment about acceptance and inclusivity, with a lot of different types of human beings being represented in the media, etc. And so, like little Michaela, she's not perfectly human. You can see this kind of synthetic quality about her, and we still accept her and we still love her. And I think this is a really big leap in terms of actually us learning to look at these types of characters and to learn to accept them and not judge them and not see them as creepy. Actually, we'll see more of them, and that's what I'd kind of like to encourage. I think.
Little Michaela has 1.7 million followers on Instagram. You also showed, just briefly for people who don't know that, Shudu, she is also a digital model, or like supermodels, created by Cameron James Wilson. I discovered Shudu only like at the Arts Plus in Frankfurt, and there Cameron explained he also came from the fashion industry. She doesn't have as much followers as many as little Michaela has, but I mean, just seeing that they have followers, and some people like they act with them as they would be human. Like the comments you can read and everything. Some people really don't see that this is digital.
It's an interesting, because these are two different approaches where little Michaela is an example where, say, the company Brad behind her have developed a personality for her, and they're pretending that they're presenting her as if she's a real human that has a backstory, you know. Actually, they call her a robot. And then Shudu, for example, Cameron's saying, no, that Shudu is a 3D human. So with my avatar, I of course acknowledge her as a 3D avatar, but it's also, she's kind of a social experiment where I can kind of unleash the things that I could never really do myself, you know, but I can do it through her now.
Okay. Maybe it's a totally different way, but I'm pretty sure that some people were like, okay, so what you have been reading out was an elderly person sees her own avatar without wrinkles. And I mean, you are still young, and when you're in 20 years and you look into M's face, wouldn't you be scared to see yourself in the mirror, because actually in the mirror you have wrinkles and your digital avatar doesn't have any?
Yeah, I don't know, and I think that's why it's such a fascinating journey, and that's why I know that I'm going to be working with M forever, because I don't know how I'm going to react to her. But I think that's the thing that was surprising about the experience, is how much I really loved her.
May I ask?
And especially, you know, I never physically put myself in my own works, because I'm not that stoked about the idea of my physical appearance being part of my work. But then with M, I don't know, it was good for my self-esteem. I don't know why. So maybe other people would have that same experience.
You also had two extreme examples. Marina Abramovic is known as a performance artist worldwide. So you captured her underwater. I think that's what I saw in the video.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So, so her reaction and the reaction from Sophia Hansen's David Hansen, I guess, because Sophia, I'm not sure if Sophia had a reaction on her digital, because Sophia Hansen is the humanoid robot, so she's not real. She's already a robot that is out there and has her own. I think she has a passport from the Arabic Emirates.
Yeah, I've heard.
And she has a credit card.
Yeah,
not sure what she's buying with that. But can you just shortly leverage on that? So, what is Marina's reaction on her avatar versus what does David say, or maybe he had Sophia reacting on that?
Yeah, so, okay, so Marina, she, of course, she loves her avatar, and I think she's gone on to produce more works with that, where I think especially as she's entering her sort of elderlyhood, she's getting a new lease on this medium. And no, I mean, a lot of people do approach their avatars and try and beautify them. I think Marina also wanted to, you know, she wanted it to be representative of, say, her 40-year-old, 50-year-old self, because I think she's 70 now, maybe. And then Hansen, actually that project, we're developing Sophia in 3D, and we're trying to improve on her realism so that Hansen has a target in which to work towards in physical. So she's almost, we're creating the ideal for him to then continue to work towards.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we saw is, for some people would call that uncanny valley.
Yeah.
And I remember I met Sophia and David, and I had not the same uncanny valley effect as I had with some other humanoid robots, because I think she doesn't have hair, because that it shows that she is a robot and that I'm not thinking that she is interacting with me. I really think it's David. But at some point people say no, they really believe that she is another person they are talking to, and then at some point they are addressing her as, I talked with Sophia about that.
I mean, I think this is why this little Michaela process has been so interesting and has opened up so many doors, especially because I think the younger generation in particular are 100% accepting her. You can see it in the comments. People are asking little Michaela, you know, how her day was or something, you know. So
they do.
I think that we have the capacity to go there and to believe these stories and to be engaged with them. So I don't know, why not?
We have our first question
not?
from the audience up here.
Hello. Yes.
Hi,
Hi. My
hi,
name's
hi.
Andrew. I just had a question. You're showing a lot of mocap performance animation, driven animation. Have you done much work in procedurally driven facial animation? And
No.
when
but
will
this
that
is-
look good? Is the main question.
Yeah. This is what the Mossam research project that we're a part of is trying to address. So that's a 4-year project where we've just finished year 1. So hopefully in 2 to 3 years' time, we'll start seeing some good results there. But yeah, it is a challenge for sure. And I actually think to just double barrel on that, I think we're achieving very good realism in terms of a still, the still model, the quality of the skin. This is all looking very successful. But actually capturing motion has become, I think, one of the biggest challenges, or that's when you're experiencing it that you do look at it and go, okay, that's not real. So recreating believable human motion has become the challenge now.
Yeah, that's why most companies with their digital humans show them speaking, but you never hear them. It's just music underneath.
Yeah, exactly. It is very hard. But I also, something that just now on a creative side, or my experience is that now motion, in a way, can become a commodity, in the sense that, say you have someone like Kate Moss, who's a very talented model. In a way, her talent is in the movement of her body. So you can start to, in a way, sell your sort of movement, or that is where you can see, to a certain extent, an injection of a real human, the capture of the motion. It's mixed in then with the digital qualities of the software or the hardware, both actually. And so that's just also an interesting process where I'm starting to wonder what will happen in terms of the selling of your motion. It could become a commodity as well.
2 more questions. One over here, one back there. Oh, and more fingers going up. So yeah.
Well, let's see what we can do in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
Shoot.
Thank you very much for this really inspiring presentation. What also caught me in your personal statement, that when you said it actually also gives you more self-confidence. It gave me to think, because I can see that by having a digital avatar, it actually helps oneself to get out of one's own skin and see oneself from a different perspective, because
100%, yeah.
I mean, I can just speak for myself, but it can be so hard to have self-compassion. And I think it's easier to have compassion for other people, but once you maybe see yourself as another person, you might actually be able to start loving yourself more. So that's really where I found this. It can really have a healing potential, where I can see this solution also being applied in therapy programs also.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think that is the process that I went on. You know, I see everyone around me, and I see them as beautiful, but not myself. And then I saw myself, and I was like, not bad.
So the young lady with the hat on, yeah. And then we had AC
And Ralf Schäfer.
and Ralf Schäfer. And then if
And
we
then
have
we'll
more
see.
time, we'll see.
First, I want to say I absolutely am in love with this aspect of 3D and digitalizing humans. But you were talking about the future and how maybe in a few years, when you have wrinkles, not few years, many years, that you would look back at this avatar
I don't mind.
and you would be inspired to see yourself at that age. But a few years back, the humans that were being made for games and even the movies, if you look at them now, the quality is really bad. And how do you see the quality will be in the future? Are we going to still like the things that we're seeing today with all the realistic skin and the sweat and everything?
Yeah. I mean, I think so that was one of the purposes of developing M, that she was going to be this ongoing example of our technology growth. So yeah, without a doubt, she's going to become more realistic, and we're going to look back on this M and go, oh gosh, we were a bit far off there. And it's crazy. Our studio, you see the content we were making 3 months ago, and it's getting better at such a fast rate. That's why when even I showed the demo, I was like, we've got more work coming out, because it's getting better really, really quickly. So I don't know, maybe there'll be a kind of a nice quality of her kind of infancy, or, you know, her birth of being a little bit undeveloped one day when we look back.
Yeah, hey, my question is, I'm not Kate Moss, but if we take Kate Moss, for example, if she dies, we hope she never dies, but if she dies, what happens with her avatar? Is this property of her manager, or will it get deleted, or what happens with it? Because
I mean,
she could do everything with her avatar in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have actually brought people back from the dead, where we have created digital humans of people who have passed. And they're, of course, always owned by the estate of the family or whatever. But that is the sort of security of that 3D asset, and how it's used and who has ownership over the copyright is certainly going to be a big topic in the future, especially when people pass. Yeah.
Let's solve the fight through the
So
microphone.
your static models have fantastic quality, but animating them is still a problem. On the other hand, before lunch, we had a session about volumetric video. So they're quite authentic, but they sometimes lack quality still. Do you think you can combine both technologies? Maybe have your very high quality still avatar animated by volumetric video, and then get the perfect quality with motion?
Yeah, I'm sure that a hybrid solution can be used, but my immediate thought is that that the volumetric capture, so the benefit of having a rigged model is that you can then animate it in any number of ways. Whereas with volumetric capture, you just have the performance that you captured there on the day, and that's what you have. So it's a little bit limited in terms of.
That's a different aspect.
Yeah.
I just meant improving the quality of animated.
Yeah. My team are we've got several tech geniuses there, so I'm certain that they are they're thinking about these things all the time. And my husband, who's the CTO of the company, he's a massive fan of hybrid technology, sort of capturing, say, what it would mean if we took, say, audio-driven facial capture and combine that with optical-driven facial capture and see what could be created. So for sure, the question of whether we could combine our approach to volumetric approach and create a hybrid solution, I'm certain that's something that'll start to develop in the future, for sure, because it is visually better.
Last question, AC Coppins.
Okay. I have absolutely no worries about the future of the company, about the future of the quality, about the future of hybrid technologies. We talked a lot about the quality and everything. You said you had to unlearn the physical restrictions. I'm sure that's absolutely true. Now, we were already touching the point of ethics, and I wanted to ask you that in your great team and great designers and etc., do you have anyone in the company working on ethics? And it's not only about people passing, it's about control, about identities. I'm thinking also about AIs having a legal identity, also here in Europe, in Belgium, for example, when the AI has been composing some music, and knowing that voice, music, and etc. will be mixed with your technologies for sure. I would like to know, do you have anyone in the company working on ethics?
We're a very small company, but I would probably say I'm the person that's sitting there asking myself, do I think this project is okay, or you know, we haven't ever had a project land on our table where I have thought this isn't acceptable. We've like close. There's been some questionable things where people have wanted to bring back politicians, or and so those projects didn't end up going through. But for sure, this is something that we're always asking ourselves as a company, whether something's right or not. And the question of ethics is definitely a hot topic. And so I can only see that as we develop and the world develops, and I hope, you know, like with kind of anything, there are bad people in the world, but I hope that it's just kept to a minimum, and most of the time we can actually use our technology for some really good purposes.
As always, and there are always more people looking for the bad in things, and we need those that see the future and a vision and create something. And in this respect, it's great to have you here presenting us the great possibilities that technology brings with us. And we've seen that there are a lot of questions, ethical or others, accompanying that, of course. And we'll see where that leads us in the future. Hermione Flynn, thank you for coming.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.